Hey guys, this video is going to cover the side project I've kind of had for the last little while. Now, I've been theory crafting a lot and trying to figure out a sort of a plan that will be a bit different from what I'm doing on my main account. Let me try a few new things. Now, what I'm going to do is break this video down into three parts. The first part is the process, the kind of theory crafting behind it. The second part will be the actual plan. And the third part, we're going to take a look at this account in a bit of detail as to how that's progressing on the plan. So yeah, I hope you enjoy it. I hope it's informative. And we'll jump into the process first. Okay, so my thought process in the last little while has been towards how to make a new account as sort of narrow and as lean as possible, while still ticking as many boxes as I can tick in terms of what characters can be used where and how effective they're going to be in early Grand Arena. And the two things that I kind of focused on the most for the early game is Scoundrels for Credit Heist and Dark Side ships for Zetas. They seem like two of the absolute cruxes of a new account, and I've been trying to identify which ones are the most efficient to go after in terms of both early game viability and how easy they are to get. We'll start with the Scoundrels. I've gotten it arranged into ones with good leadership or existent leadership abilities. All bounty hunters are just lumped in together there because every single one of them has a leadership. Smugglers and then other generic scoundrels. Now anything marked in red is an extremely late farm, to the point that it almost certainly will not be relevant towards finishing the Tarkin event and getting access to Zetas. Anything in green is early game, it's accessible, but obviously there are degrees into what characters are really good and which ones not so much. Like you could throw pretty much any 5 Scoundrels from this list together and be able to do Credit Heist, but that's not to say that team will then be useful in any other game mode. Obviously smugglers are relevant as well for Smuggler's Run, and bounty hunters are relevant for both Chewbacca and the galactic bounties, which is important. But for me, what I really wanted to do this time was a dash team. So Dash Rendar, who obviously has a ship, Young Han and Vandar Chewie, who are also smugglers, so that's 3 out of 5 for Smuggler's Run, there you go. And then IG and Queel, mainly because Queel and the TIE Bomber are on the same node, and that will tie into what I'm trying to do with my dark side ships. That was the plan for this account, and it remains to be seen how it goes. I suppose you'll see how it's going when we cut to the in-game later on. And in terms of dark side ships, it's a little bit more complicated. Here you'll see a lot of red, especially around the capital ships. A lot of capital ships in this game are really late, but that's not to say that the fleet isn't viable without them. Especially early, running a bunch of first order ships with Executrix or with Chimera is going to be perfectly fine. The same with the Separatists, same with the Bounty Hunters, same with the Sith. Maybe not so much with Sith. They seem really reliant on not so much the Leviathan, but the Fury class Interceptor, which is pretty late game compared to everything else. Most things on these lists. Definitely not relevant to the Tarkin event anyway. Now each one of those has been categorized into their factions and accessibility, same as the Scoundrels. And the one thing you'll notice straight away is that the majority of the Separatist fleet is really easy to get. The majority of the First Order pilots are really easy to get, and a decent amount of the Empire pilots are easy to get as well. The Sith fleet is probably best left till much later in the game, purely because a lot of the stuff competes, a lot of the stuff is quite late, and most of it doesn't do that much until you have Malgus and his ship in there. Even without the Leviathan, I've seen this run with Chimera, and it was absolutely fine prior to Leviathan coming out, but the crux of the team seems to be Malgus. So I wouldn't be that pushed on going for the Sith ships early. However, I also kind of have a predisposition against Geos. I'm just not a big fan of how the Geo team works. I know it's effective, and I know their ships are really effective, but I'm just not that pushed, to be honest, so I have a bit of personal bias there. In terms of what else is available, Slave 1 and IG-2000 are both easy to get and early to get, with the Slave 1, in my opinion, being a better ship outside of its fleet. IG-2000 is awesome, but it's quite dependent on the breach mechanic, and without the Hound's Tooth, without the Xanadu Blood, and especially without the Razor Crest, I feel like IG-2000 on its own doesn't actually do that much. So we're kind of ruling out every Bounty Hunter bar Boba Fett for the moment. So the ones I had a serious look at were the First Order and the Empire. First Order, the first 3 ships, the 2 TIE Fighters and the TIE Silencer, are all easy enough to get. Their pilots just as much so. The Echelon and the Command Shuttle and the TIE Dagger are a bit later, to the point that you would be late for the Tarkin event if you were waiting for them. So if you were going to try and run First Order as one of your main fleets, to get the Zeta event completed, you'll probably have to run a hybrid fleet of First Order and Seps or First Order and Empire to really get much there. But they are awesome. It's a really fun fleet from what I've seen, and I would like to do that. In fact, I'm pretty sure in this playthrough I'm going to be getting the TIE Silencer anyway, even if it's only for crew going into a Seer team. It's a really good ship. He's a really good character. But the one I took a serious look at this time was Empire. Purely because both capital ships are early game, they're pretty accessible. TIE Fighter, TIE Bomber are really accessible. All these pilots are super accessible. TIE Advance takes a little bit of time to get, but I'd still be pretty confident I'd have it ready in time for the Empire to bring Tarkin's Executrix up to 5 stars, which unlocks Zetas. You need 5 4-star Darkside ships, but once you actually get to the event for the Zetas, it can be any ship. It need not be Darkside. So there's a bit more room for maneuver there. The Emperor Shuttle is also kind of accessible. Palpatine obviously is pretty easy to get. Royal Guard, I'd prefer not to be farming, but he passively farms quite well just because he comes up in the Brondian packs. Like, I have my Royal Guard now at like 4 stars on that account, and I have not farmed his node once, other than just to have it unlocked. TIE Defender is a bit of a later acquisition as well. You won't get access to that node until you're level 70, but Iden is super accessible, and I would consider TIE Defender because it unlocks at 4 stars. So even if you just about unlock the ship in time, you could run the event with it, or at least you could run the Tarkin upgrade portion of that event with it, which would be pretty awesome. And I feel like it'd be really strong in Fleet Arena as well. So that will conclude the first part of this video, which is the theory crafting behind it. I'm going to show you next the actual plan that came from that. Okay, so here's a rough outlook of the plan. In terms of campaigns and leveling, here are teams that we want to run. On the dark side, we have to run Iden with almost Stormtrooper, Magma Trooper, Range Trooper, and Stark is what I've chosen. I prefer it to be Shore instead of Stormtrooper, and Death instead of Magma, and I'm sure that'll be what it is in the end game. But they're harder to get characters. I'm not going to concern myself with trying to get them early. Especially, even if they drop, I'm not going to drop them at any reasonable stars. So I don't really want to invest too heavily, even if I happen across them earlier. These ones will get me through events. They'll get me through things with star rating prerequisites, which is what I'm going for. On the other side, we got the Phoenix team with Captain Rex. Captain Rex is going to take some time. Everyone else is not hugely difficult to come by. And it also provides me 2 ships for Rebels, which is awesome. For my dark side ships, what is probably going to be aimed for is what you see here. TIE Fighter, TIE Bomber, TIE Advanced, TIE Defender, Vulture Droid, Emperor Shuttle. And maybe the TIE Silencer, depending on how these farms look when I'm approaching level 78. And the Scoundrel team for the Credit Heist is the Dash one. Those teams and where they can be used in other places are kind of explored over here, with Dash, Younghan, and Vander Shui being 3 out of 5 for Smuggler's Run, the Iden team being usable in Forest Moon and for the Rebel Roundup, Phoenix being usable on 2 assault battles as well, Sith, well, Palpatine, Vader, and Savage, who I plan on getting from the arena, are 3 out of 5 for places of power. I suppose Karoo would be number 4 if we wanted to put him in there, and maybe Darth Treya, considering I don't really have a raid character in mind, at least not early. For Jedi, we've also got 3 out of 5 with Kanan, Kyle, and Ezra, all of which will be farming just as pilots anyway. And our sort of basic layout for Carbonite is down below. We got the 3 teams I've already mentioned, probably for defense. Saw Gerrera with Biggs, Wedge, and Kyle as an offensive team. An Empire setup here, probably with Palpatine, Mara Jade, Thrawn, Royal Guard, and Tarkin. Definitely Palpatine and Thrawn anyway, as a sort of an Empire turn meter train. And Team 6, I'm thinking, is going to be some combination of Sith with Treya, Savage, Darth Talon, probably Vader. Early anyway. Because we do want the Gauntlet Starfighter eventually, and I'm farming Gar Saxon at the moment while I'm waiting for better characters on the Cantina nodes, Gar Saxon and Imperial Super Commando as a 2-man unit seems to do an awful lot of work. So that would be a plan, maybe not for Carbonite, but I feel like that's a really good investment as well. I haven't fully planned out any 3v3 teams based on this yet, but that's kind of where the plan is at. Now this is obviously subject to change. It's still very much theory crafting in my head, as you've probably noticed by looking at these. There is a sort of a side plan on getting Starkiller. As you can see, Mara Jade, Darth Talon, Kyle Katarn, and Dash are all parts of these teams. So yeah, I would like to have Starkiller in the long run, but I haven't fully worked out what that Starkiller team is going to be yet, other than Paps and Mara, for obvious reasons. So we'll have to play that one by ear. And similarly, since Vander Chewie is on the same node as Tarful, and I have nothing to farm really level 1 of the fleet arena right now, so I've just been farming Merrin. There is a possibility of going for Jedi Knight Cal as well as one of the earlier journey characters of note, but that's kind of where we're at now. In terms of where these characters are found, this is where we're currently at. I am farming everything in yellow at present, and everything in green is finished. So Kanan and Tarkin are already done in the arena shop. Ezra and Kanan were on the same node, so Ezra and Kanan are both 7 stars. The TIE Fighter pilot is 7 stars. The TIE Fighter isn't, but it'll drop in so many places. I'm not going to sit on the Cantina node just to put shards onto the TIE Fighter. At the moment, I've moved on to Gar Saxon. I will be using him later, I think. So that's a plan. Stark in the guild shop. Guild shop currency is coming in really slow, just purely because that account is still sitting in the beginner guilds. My own guild from my main account will become available to me at level 65, and I'm going to throw this account straight into the other one the second I can. So that's the only reason I haven't done much about that yet. It probably has set me back a little bit, but I'm not that worried. This is strictly a side project. I'm having fun. So after this, we're going to jump into the in-game footage and show you how that plan has actually panned out. Okay, so let's take a look at the account. This one is about 3.5 weeks old. I started on a Thursday, so it will be 4 weeks old in a couple of days, and it's coming together. We just unlocked fleets yesterday, and things are taking shape. So let's get a look at where we're at. In terms of characters, as you can see, there's an Iden team, there's a Phoenix team, and there's the beginnings of the Dash Rendar Scoundrel team taking shape here. I've also got Saw Gerrera unlocked, as well as Tarful and a few other characters like Gar Saxon and a couple of the troopers here. Spent a little bit of money on the trooper pack that was dropping there. Is pretty awesome, so that's why I have PS at a reasonable level. That's why Iden's as far on as she is. It's why Stark and Range Trooper are as far on as they are. And yeah, sort of to jump in and give it a heads up as to what it's going to look like. Those are the 3 teams I'm aiming for initially, and they're going to be my 3 defensive teams for Grand Arena. Each one of those is pretty ridiculous in GA, with Captain Rex supercharging the Phoenix squad, Iden just being a general annoyance, and the Dash Rendar team just having revives for days, and Queel and IG being really difficult to deal with, while Young Han just steadily builds damage. In terms of fleet stuff, it's a slow start. We've gotten Phantom and a Ghost, we've got TIE Fighter, we've got Vulture Droid. I haven't intended on going that deep into the separate ships, so we won't be farming Geos, I don't believe. What I'm going to try and push for here on the dark side is Empire. We're already almost halfway to unlocking TIE Bomber. We'll be working on TIE Advanced every single time it comes up. And if it looks like it's slow, we're going to jump over and do the Silencer, because that can be done now if we so wished, and that'll give another pretty strong ship. And I don't even think it will be wasted, even if I'm not intending on going for Supreme Leader Kylo Ren anytime soon. The fact that Crew is such a good tank, he'll slot straight into something like a Seer team if I wanted to go down in that way. And to be honest, given that a lot of the requirements for a Jedi Knight Cal are stuff I'm going to be looking at, a Seer team could be on the cards. Maybe not for Carbonite, but definitely for Bronzium. So yeah, that's kind of where we're sitting. It's pretty early days. I'm working my way through the mod battles to try and get access to speed mods as soon as I can. In terms of journey guides, we've already gotten four parts of Emperor Palpatine done. We have got 4, I believe, of Thrawn, or at least 3 of Thrawn done. 4. And we have R2-D2 unlocked already, using a mixture of the 4 Imperial Troopers I have that are 5 stars and Tarkin. So we're progressing reasonably well on that front as well. And the aim is for Saw Gerrera, along with Biggs, Wedge and Kyle, to be one of my offensive teams for Grand Arena, with Biggs, Wedge and Kyle giving me a total of 5 Rebel ships, with which to unlock Chimera, and to also be a fleet that I can either attack or defend with. It remains to be seen, on top of the existing Empire fleet. But yeah, that's where we're at so far. I am undecided as to whether I'm going to be updating this account on YouTube as regularly as I am my main account. But this was a lot of fun to make, so it's entirely possible. If you're really enjoying the content, leave a like, subscribe, comment, anything at all, really, is pretty good. Thanks so much for your time, and catch us in the next one.